women losing interest in you when you don't follow through, and what to do instead if you are confused or clueless about this. Because here's the thing: women don't ghost or pull away or hold you accountable and say something about your actions for nothing at all, or for just complaining or nagging. Maybe you hear it as that, but she's holding you accountable for a reason. And the reason is because you didn't follow through on something. And maybe you didn't bother to communicate that. If you said something and then didn't act on it, right? You were out of integrity. So this is not just having you become aware of these things, it's me helping to guide you to do something different so that you can create different results. You know, uh, a man that watched my channel actually said that he wants to hear more of my content around what women talk about, like in the powder room when they're together, right? And so I have a story for you. I was talking to one of my girlfriends not too long ago, and she's actually my accountability partner. So we talk about everything from business to men to dating, relationships. And she was telling me about a man that she actually really liked, who she was interested in. And they never really got together, but they reunited and reconnected. And he mentioned getting together, wanting to set up a date and see her because he was really excited. And of course, she answered him in the most feminine way and was like, "Yes, I would love that." And unfortunately, he dropped the ball because he actually suggested a day that they could get together and then never followed up, never bothered to say anything, even if, "Oh, you know what? Actually, that day doesn't work for me. I spoke too quickly. Let's do it on this day instead. Are you available?" He said nothing. And it's not just only my friends coming to me and telling me this, and also I've experienced this too with more than a few men that I've dated. You know, I'm seeing a lot of women talk about this online, and it's super disappointing and frustrating to them because these women really want to date. They really putting themselves out there. You know, they want to find a partner or have somebody to date that's really going to show up. So I start off with that story to tell you that these are the things that women are talking about behind the scenes, right? And if you're coming to this channel wanting to know that, because this is about not teaching you how to be a man, I can never do that. But this is definitely about helping you and serving you so that you can be more effective in your relationships, in dating, and also to help you become more aware of your patterns so that you can make different choices and create different results, but do different actions. You know, some men seem to not follow through because maybe it's coming out of like fear or nervousness or things like that. You can work through all that within yourself, or like call one of your guy friends and talk it over. You know, it's not the end of the world, and women are not asking men to be perfect. Especially feminine women. We know that you're not perfect, and we don't want that. We just want a man who's going to be consistent, right? That's attractive. So one point that I want to make and drive home here is that when you're flaky, flakiness like sends off a red flag in our system. And we instantly are like, okay, this man feels uncertain and he's now untrustworthy to me, right? And obviously, I said you're not perfect, you're going to make mistakes. So if a man, or if you like don't follow through and you like and you acknowledge that and say something about it, we're going to still have respect for you because you're like, okay, at least he knows, he's acknowledging it, and now he's going to course correct it. But women test consistency to measure the level of safetiness they're going to feel with you. And safetiness is the beginning thing, the number one thing that helps to build any relationship, not just romantic, friendship, business, everything. So, for instance, if you cancel a date with a woman and don't bother to reschedule and then just like disappear, become a ghost, or you don't follow through on something you said, the attraction and the connection that was starting to build instantly dies. Just like that, right? And I'm saying this, that's why I said cancel without bothering to reschedule. That's what that's what it is when what I'm saying is like when you say something and you don't follow through, right? And you don't bother to acknowledge that you didn't follow through. So remember, like flaky men are the worst. Hey, what's up? And welcome to everybody that's joining. Please join the conversation. Flower, lover, Shahanan. I'm sorry I butchered your name. Type it in the chat so that I can say it correctly because my name is spelled Joi. So a lot of people have called me Joey or Joe. Um, but hi, Anderson, welcome. So that's one of the main points on, I want to drive home here. If you're a flaky dude, you're going to have a hard time with a good woman, a feminine woman sticking around you. You know who's going to stick around? Nobody, and you're going to be alone. I'm telling you this. Women are talking about this behind the scenes. So I'm dropping some real knowledge. If you want to get in a woman's head, like I'm here to share it with you, right? Because you're not mind readers, but obviously you know if you said something and then flaked out on it, right? You know if you did that. And so I can say your name. I just want to pronounce it correctly. Um, I want to pronounce it correctly and respect that because I know how it feels when like people can't pronounce your name correctly. It's happened to me all my life. Even though, my Joy Rochelle is my first and middle name, but even like Joy, they can't pronounce right because it's spelled differently instead of Joi, and Rochelle, they just butcher because it's spelled completely different. So all good. Hey, Zit Cannon. So that's one point. I'm driving home. The next point is effort and action definitely speaks louder than your words. You could promise a woman the world, but if you don't be in action around creating that, then it means nothing to us. It's literally like you just blew air or like said nothing at all. Like women like men who are consistent, and being consistent has to do with making the effort and being an action behind it, right? It's like rinse and repeat. It's like going to the gym, putting in the reps, effort, action, doing it over on repeat equals consistency, if that makes sense. So, promises, suggestions mean nothing if there's no follow through, if there's no action. And that also means you're out of integrity with your word. I have talked about this. Consistency, presence, and integrity are some magnificent skills to have as a man in this world. And maybe something you want to take on as something you value, because when it's part of your core values, then you're going to work to have it turn out and to be expressed, right? And it says that you are masculine. It shows a woman that you are a masculine man because you're not only going to create solutions around things, you're making the effort, you're being in action, and you're most of all, you're consistent. And what does that do? And what does that tell a woman? It tells a woman that you are masculine most of all, but you value her being in your life. You value her time and her energy. Now, I hope y'all not in the comments bickering while I'm talking about this, because I'm dropping some knowledge here that's important that maybe a woman hasn't told you, or you haven't gotten it from a woman's perspective, and y'all in here bickering and going back and forth in the comments, right? What makes me masculine? Well, look, I don't want to put masculinity in a box, right? I actually don't like that, like saying like, oh, you do these 10 things and they make you masculine. But one way how you, so good question, Zit Cannon. But one way, a few ways how you can express your masculinity, and women are in tune with that, and instantly we're like, oh, I like him because he's X, Y, and Z, is that you make the effort and you back it up with action. You're not just speaking words like, oh, I want to take you, out dancing on Saturday. And then you say nothing about it. Like, like she likes salsa dancing or something like that. And you're like, oh, I found this cool salsa place. I actually would love to take you here. She's going to take that in like, okay, he's going to make the effort and plan this. Women don't forget stuff. They don't forget. And so in the back of her mind, she's going to hold you accountable to that and see if you act on it, right? If you move forward and follow through and plan that date, make the effort to create that experience which you were suggesting and talking about. And so something about blowing air and liking salsa. I said that when you just speak your words and don't back them up with action, that's basically like blowing air, right? It means nothing. It's like poof. Like it doesn't like, it's not concrete. It's not concrete. It's not building a healthy foundation with a woman, right? Because if you building a house on mud, it's going to slide, right? It might even fall apart. It's not going to be stable. So you making the effort with action creates a stable foundation, and being consistent with that creates a stable foundation you're creating with her. So, and women find this very attractive. And it's not just about attraction. Attraction is like the surface level part, right? But that helps, like I said, to develop a strong foundation in a relationship. And it also helps to create a bond with her. It's going to help create safety. And safety after that helps to build trust, right? So if you're not creating safety and trust with her, she's never going to surrender, right? I hear so many men out here like, oh, I would just love to have like a feminine woman who would just like surrender, and trust my leadership. Well, you got to show her you can be a leader. Because if you're not, then it doesn't allow her to one surrender to you, and for her to relax into her feminine, knowing that you're going to handle it, knowing that you're going to be integrity with your word, knowing that you are going to be consistent. And then it forces her to be the leader, or to just like, if it's in the beginning stages of something, she'll be like, this dude is not worth my time or energy. He can't even keep his word on things. So that's why some women may pull away and ghost right in the beginning, because she's like, it's not worth my time. Or if there's a pattern, she decides to stay around, right? And you're dating a woman with standards, she's usually going to tell you this up front. But let's say she didn't really drive that point home, right? In her actions and her words. So, she let it slip one time. But usually a feminine woman with standards and boundaries, she's going to hold you accountable when you're not in integrity with your word. When you make promises or plans or say something and you don't follow through. And I've done this before, and you know what? The man I said it to disagreed with me. So you definitely want to be open to the feedback, because it doesn't necessarily mean she's complaining or trying to nag you. And if she cares about you, and she's a feminine woman, she's going to know how to communicate with you and deliver it in a way where it lands with you, where it's not just like nagging or her like yelling at you like she's her, she's your mother or something like that. Healthy feminine women understand like a man does not want another mother. A masculine man does not want another mom, So that's little boy energy when you consistently have a pattern of just talking shit and saying stuff and your words mean nothing. And this, like I said, a lot of these principles that I'm teaching or reminding you of, you can exercise in business, in your career, in your platonic relationships. You think somebody is actually going to stick around and stay in a relationship with you when you can't keep your word, when you're flaky, when you don't bother to show up? No, unless they care less about themselves. So, thank you, Zakani said, dang, pure truth. Screw tape 6_27. Thank you for the compliment. I take that in, and I like looking nice for you all, like for myself too. But I love working on being in my feminine. I love to express that through my look as well. So thank you so much. I felt a little feisty today, so I wanted to put on some red lipstick for you all. So, if that's landing for you, let me know in the chat. Drop a one in the comments. Maybe even drop a one in the comments if a woman has left you because you couldn't follow through, because you were flaky, because you lacked consistency. So, in one of the videos I made yesterday, it was all about you taking ownership, accountability, and responsibility for your actions and choices. And that's just across the board with anything in life, but also when you're in relationship with a woman. You know, maybe be open to taking the feedback when she's holding you accountable and telling you, or letting you know. And like I said, not in a motherly way or a bossy way. If she's coming to you and really honoring the man that you are, but also telling you that you didn't honor her because you can't keep your word, listen, take it in, take the feedback and see if it resonates so that you can course correct and then express that to her. Acknowledge it. Acknowledge your screw up, right? And then you can move forward. One thing I love about dating and romantic relationship is that it's an opportunity for both of us to grow, not just as a couple, but as individuals. And sometimes we don't want to look in the mirror to look at our own faults and our own flaws, right? If you're attached to being right. And that's why I use the story of one guy that I held him accountable for some things and he didn't agree with me because he wanted to be right about his actions. But I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you be right about that. You can be right and alone. And this wasn't the first time that he did that. So, it's just like, well, you're not willing to change or hear me out here. So, and I've said this more than a few times. So I'm not going to continue to repeat myself. And you clearly don't really want me around because you're not honoring your word. And so why should I trust you or feel safe with you at all? So if you're picking up what I'm throwing down, let me know in the comments. Let me know if this makes sense. But the third point I want to also drive home about this, I mean, there's so many points I can make. Like we would be on this live forever. And it's not about, saying you're a shitty dude or you're an incomplete man or you're not good enough. This is about you just being aware of your patterns. And maybe I'm the mirror for you to be aware of that, because when we have awareness, then we can make different choices. If we're constantly on automatic about our patterns and our habits and how it's affecting other people, then we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. But I'm here to tell you that women are talking about this. They're complaining about it and they're frustrated about it because they want to be in relationship. They want to be with you guys. But you got to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and look at what's not working so that you can correct that. And the last thing of what I said a little bit before, when you are consistent, it shows your masculinity. And when you're in your masculinity around like these types of things, like that helps build your authority. That helps her to look at you like you're a leader. Like, damn, he is really doing the damn thing. Like he's making effort. He's being consistent. He's saying X and doing X, right? I look like a god sneezes when he was craving my. I don't know what y'all talking about. Scott Smith, you seem bright, smart, and damn cute in your display. What is your control demand? What is your control demand in relationships? I don't understand what that means. So can you reword the question so I can answer you? JB2 truth. Thank you, JB2. Maybe you mean you're asking me why am I trying to be controlling? I'm actually not trying to be controlling. Holding somebody accountable, a man accountable and or a woman, like she may do something you don't like. And I always talk about this. If you don't set a boundary or let her know, then you're going to be a doormat. You're going to let her run all over you. She's not going to respect you. So it goes both ways. But obviously, since my content and my channel is for men, I'm talking, you know, to you from a woman's perspective and what women care about and the characteristics and ways of being that women value and look for in men. So especially if she's dating you and at the end of the day she's looking to commit and be in a committed monogamous relationship, she wants to be with somebody who's consistent. You know, that's setting her light bulbs off as like, well, he'll be a good partner, he'll be a solid boyfriend. You know, he's husband material, even if y'all end up like not end up getting to that point, right? It's going to like I said, help her feel safe, and it builds the trust factor. If you don't, if a woman doesn't feel safe, she doesn't trust you, there's no point. Zit Can, I was saying, oh, you're not ugly. No. Beauty or good looks is in the eyes of the beholder, you know? And you know, that's not always true, because sometimes you'll see men and they may look average to the American standard. I'm saying average with a grain of salt, right? Obviously, you know, I can't see your picture really big, but they're with a beautiful woman. And, but, you know, they may be showing up and handling things and doing it right and treating her like a goddess. So she's like, this is a good man, you know? So I feel that attraction and all that jazz is different in everyone's eyes. So, oh, stop it. You don't need to find a blind school to pick up chicks. That is not true. There's somebody out there for everybody. And I always say there's many people out there for everybody. Scott Smith, many women demand control of time and activities. Are you would go with the flow, or I'll let you know what we're doing tomorrow? I like a little bit of going with the flow, but I have to put up boundaries on that. Because if you're constantly wanting to come into my life and date me where you just think we're going to go with the flow all the time, that doesn't fly with me. Because that means you just think that I'm going to be available for you at any time for it. I'm using it an example of maybe you want to see me. You think you can call me up at 11 o'clock p.m. and think I'm going to come see you. No, that's not going to happen. So I'm definitely spontaneous. And in that regard, I love surprises. I love when a man plans something and he's like, I got a surprise for you. I don't need to control that. I don't need to know what it is. If he knows what I'm into and he knows what I'm like, what I like, and or he wants to expose me to something new and he knows that I would like it, he has a 90%, 90% clarity on that I would probably like this or not. Like I love things like that. I love like being spontaneous and being surprised. So in that you got to surrender and go with the flow. But no, if you just think you can date me and we're going to go with the flow the whole experience, I'm not signing up for that. Because to me that says like you're flaky and you don't want to commit to anything. And so that's not masculine to me if you can't even commit to like seeing me at a set time in a day. Now, say we had a date and we went out at a set time and you're like, you know what? I just got an idea. Let's go to this place. Now I'm going with the flow. I like that. That's spontaneous. That's sexy to me. And that's also saying like you want to extend the time and being with me. And so I'll take note of that. So, I like stuff like that. So that's what I said. I definitely like going with the flow, but in the correct context. So that's what I'm gonna say. But if you're a man who wants to be flaky and like, let's just see where it goes and goes with the flow as a basis and a foundation for what you want to experience with me, dating me, that's not gonna fly. Like you wouldn't get past the first date with me. You probably wouldn't get past like the first few conversations, honestly. I wouldn't waste my time. But some women are like that, like the pick me's and people that don't have women that don't have standards and don't know what they want and have no clarity. Clarity and consistency and integrity is very attractive to me. That is a turn on, specifically too, also because my dad wasn't in my life for a good part of time. So I didn't have like a masculine presence for a good part of time in my life. And that's something I always want and crave like in a man. Like, it's not coming from a place of neediness I've done a lot of work around that, my inner child and my little girl and things like that. So, I know now that it's just something I'm really attracted to. And it helps me. It helps me want to be like a better woman and like, level up when a man does that. And if it makes me feel taken care of, that's usually why it draws women in is like, oh, this man makes me feel valued and taken care of, and he values my time and my energy, and I'm going to want to invest in him and this more because of how he's showing up, how he's coming forward, and if I notice I'm wanting to control, I'll address that within myself or maybe with a friend. I have healers that I work with on my shit, so I'm not perfect, but I know there's a masculine part in me that does want to control things at some point because I didn't have a father figure at a set point in time because my parents divorced. Now, my mom got remarried and my stepdad was there. So I had some of that masculine energy is there, but we didn't have like a real close relationship, So he was like my stepdad. So we didn't, it was weird, and nothing was explained to me about why my dad left, right? So I've had to work a lot through that, but that's why I'm here. That's why the work with men is so important to me because of that dissonance and that disconnect with my dad for so long. JB2 says attraction is magnetic is the eyes of in the eyes of a woman. I've learned that women are more attracted to men that honor her mind. I'm a little bit more realistic with that. I like a man who likes the way that I look as well. Um, because I put a lot of work into taking care of myself. And so it's nice to hear that reflected back. I like receiving compliments because I was very shy about receiving compliments and feedback about the way I looked. Sometimes it used to make me feel really uncomfortable. So I like a little bit of both. I like a man who expresses that he likes the way that I think, that he likes, my intellect and things like that. But I do like a man who likes the way that I look and compliments me and recognizes that I like to take care of myself because men are visual beings. So I'm gonna keep it real. I know that, when a man first sees me, he's basing it off of how I look and how I'm presented in that moment that he sees me, right? When whatever day it is. So, and I understand that and I'm not offended by it because I just know that's how you guys are wired. Now, how you handle it is something different because as long as you're respectful, then like it sits well with me. But like men who catcall and shit like that, I don't like that. To me, that's little boy energy because it's like you've never seen a beautiful woman before. There's so many beautiful women all over this world. So like you should know how to like compliment her instead of like catcalling. I'm not telling you my body fat BMI. I'm actually some people think I'm taller than what I am. I'm only like 5'4". I'm not telling you my weight. That doesn't matter in the context of this conversation. So I'll get back to my last point, but thanks, Scott Smith, for asking respectfully. I'm not on the interview, actually, and I have a video about that of how to ask women questions and not sounding like you're interviewing her, because that's also another turnoff. A woman will dry up instantly if you're asking her questions to try to get to know her like you're interviewing somebody. So just a tidbit bonus point for you. Scott Smith. Thank you. You're sweet too. I know you mean well. But so the last part is what I'm driving home is follow through, build your masculine authority, because as you keep following through on your word, being integrity with your word, being consistent, that builds you being an authority. That is helping to forward you being in your leader energy. And that's so attractive. That's so attractive for so many women because it's like you're standing in your power and we want that. We're like, yes, you know, something is starting to shift with men coming back to realizing that and being in their masculine leader energy, not from a dominating or egotistical standpoint, when you're dominating, controlling, and have a really, really big ego, that's not what I'm talking about. You can be in your masculine and be totally like grounded and present and still firm, right? And focused and clear, but still firm, you know? So, something to realize around the distinction around that, because that's important, you know? And maybe there may be a little bit of that that you get to harness on, like with business, you know? I'm in New Jersey, I'm very close to New York City, and I know some of the men got to harness on that a little bit to like get things done, like get deals done and make money here, because the city will eat you up if you allow it to, right? And you allow people to walk all over you business wise. But some of that got to be toned down when you're going into being with your woman and being on a date, because then the extreme can go into men being narcissists, right? Which I don't like even to use that word, because it became such a buzzword in the last 5, 6 years that I've experienced some women throwing it around and labeling men that way, and that's not necessarily what he is. It's like, oh, he got some wounds and some trauma to work on, but he's not necessarily a narcissist. So I don't, when I use that word, I'm trying to like drive home a point of being true to the extreme of somebody being like egotistical, dominating, controlling. But I feel like we may all have a little tiny bit of that wanting to control in us, because it just comes out of fear from our own childhood stuff. So JB2 says masculine energy. Yes, healthy masculine energy. That's what this channel is about. That's why it's called the healthy masculine. Wait, how do you get to know someone without it sounding like an interview? Ooh, good questions, It Cannon. I love your mentality and how you communicate. How did you learn these skills? Look, I learned them by putting in the reps. You know, one thing I learned, and I'm so grateful that my content is towards men. I learned this a lot, being really clear and direct and focused on the points that I'm trying to make, because I know men like to communicate like that. And if they're going to take the time out to listen to content and listen to hear somebody speak, they want to get to the important shit, the meat, right? The meat and potatoes of the whole conversation, right? So I learned that, but still presenting it with my feminine energy with actually doing YouTube shorts. Because before YouTube shorts got to expand it to being 3 minutes, they used to only, you can only do them for 60 seconds. That's it. 60 seconds or less, and that's it. And I had to train myself to not go off on a tangent and to really learn how to drive my point home in 60 seconds or less to get what I'm saying across. And it has helped me tremendously with being able to speak and communicate in a way that it lands with men. But, you know, I also even took a program on specifically how to coach men. And in that, your language is very important. And so, you know that when men communicate too, they're kind of like want to communicating from here, not always from here. And that's okay. Um, and women really communicate like from here. So we can go off on like tangents and then come back around, is what I'm saying. So thank you for that. Thank you for noticing that. It's something I'm still constantly working on though. So um before I answer your other question, just to end on my last point, is like follow through is helping build that masculine authority, because every time you show up and in integrity with your word, it builds that, right? It becomes natural, like breathing. So it doesn't have to be this like big thing when it does fall through, or when your word does fall through and you can't follow through on something, you'll instantly know and be like, oh, I acknowledge I didn't do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to course correct it. Blue Neptune, welcome. Good to see you again. Had a person trainer, but a BMI measuring too. Oh, frowned and said, man, buddy, you're 31.1% access. Well, you know, one thing I say this to men in dating, especially when I'm coaching them, if you don't know where you are currently, how you going to know what goal you want to get to? So I don't agree how the trainer might have said it to you, but at least you know where you are as far as your BMI so that you know where you want to go. And it's the same thing with women. If you don't know your patterns or your blocks or what you're doing that's not vibing with women or that is unhealthy or self-sabotaging relationships or causing women to lose interest, what is the point of this talk? And you're like in, I don't know, in another world about why it's happening and wanting to blame them versus looking at yourself, well, then there's something very powerful about being in awareness first and knowing where you are so that you can make a different choice. And it's the same thing with releasing weight and building muscles. I know this because I used to work in health and wellness, and I used to actually train a few men, but I'm a certified yoga instructor, and I just loved studying anatomy in the body, and that's the first thing. Like that's the first thing with accomplishing a goal and changing your mindset. You got to know where you're starting off first to know where you want to go. So, I know we're going off here, but I can still bring that point home around the dating, around the dating. Like it's the same thing. If you want to attract a certain woman or you want to bring in a certain woman or date a certain caliber of woman, you got to be clear on what you want in what you're looking for in her, like what values you're attracted to, what standards you're attracted to, so that okay, when a woman comes into your world, you're kind of thinking like, does she have this? And I don't mean you have to like be so in a box where like, okay, she doesn't check off all 10 of my boxes, I'm leaving her alone. Maybe like she checks off 8 and the other 2 are unnegotiable, so I'm good, right? So it's important to be in clarity. And when you're in clarity, you can focus on accomplishing that goal like that, and you'll leap right to getting to that goal. And it's not always just about accomplishing the goal, it's the growth that happens in the process. And this is the same thing with dating. It is trial and error. It's not always black and white, and it's the growth that happens in the process to help you self actualize in the man that you want to become. And having women in your life will be a clear mirror of bring you to clarity of what you do and don't want in somebody and what you will and won't accept. It can even bring you to clarity on your boundaries, right? And your standards. Because at the end of the day, this work is all about you. Yeah, I'm talking about women because I know that's a big pain point for men in different aspects. But at the end of the day, all of what I'm talking about is going to help you be more effective. You help empower you, help you to be more self-actualized. So I got one box. You're funny. Scott Smith says, I date 38 to 60-ish, not sexually active, so it's easy to be direct. Nice. Look, at least you know what you want and you know what you like, and you know what pool and women, as far as like the pool of women and the age range and everything of where you want to play. Good. That's being clear. That's being masculine so that you can go in being very intentional. There's nothing wrong with dating with intention. I actually support you all to do that, because that helps you to filter out the drama. If you bring in a woman who's toxic, who's not what you want, you can filter that out right away because you're like, no, it's not what I want. And women with standards will do the same thing. So something to be very aware of. Um, so self-actualizing to make 300 pounds. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know how tall you are, so maybe that would depend on your height, but muscle weighs more than fat. So if you release the fat and put on some muscle, you will be heavier at the end of the day. Spirit has really spoken to me with your lessons. I'm really grateful. Oh, thank you, Zit Cannon. So to come back on the other point I was trying to make is like, when you are in your leadership and your authority energy, the bond and the trust and the safety grows with her. The attraction grows. She actually starts to open up and feel more comfortable. And then, she starts to surrender a little bit more. And then that creates peace. When men always claim they want peace, but I know you don't want somebody who's a doormat, who's not going to uh, create a opportunity for you to level up and self actualize. Yeah, you want peace, but like, do you mean you want somebody who's submissive and not going to say anything, is just like a doormat? I'm sure you don't want that, you know. And a quality woman will help to like to bring some of that peace. So to answer your questions at Canon that you asked previously, how do you get to know somebody without sounding like you're interviewing them? You got to be savvy with your questions. I encourage you to be interested instead of interesting. And what I mean by that, you can apply this to anything, to anybody you're talking to that you want to get to know, whether it's in business, romantic, friendship. Be interested in them and getting to know them and what makes them tick and what they like. And how you do that, ask questions around to help you find out their core values, their standards. Very important too with women, because if you're dating with intention and mindfully, then you're going to know instantly, okay, she values this, she doesn't value that, she likes this, she doesn't like that. It's so boring to have somebody be like, oh, well, what do you do? And what's up with you today? And those are very boring questions, you know? Maybe you can ask her something like, yo, if you could travel anywhere in the world, what are the top 5 places where are the top 5 places you would go? And what would you do? And if you could go with somebody that's in your life right now or that you know of, who would you pick to travel with you? So things like that. So, and basically all the things I'm talking about is what I help shift men into. So if you're interested, and well, girls these days know geography. I don't know if that's a comment or a question. I would say maybe not girls, but if you're dealing with a real woman, yes, she will know geography, and she will know if she's well traveled. She will have a hand on other places that she wants to travel. So I would say maybe if you're dealing with girls, no. But if you're having quality women in your life, yes. So that's the distinction. And like I said, if you're dating mindfully, then you'll be able to make that distinction between a girl and a woman and know how to handle it from there. And maybe she's a woman who's only traveled a little bit in the United States, and maybe you're more traveled and you want to open her up to more horizons because she is quality. She just hasn't had a chance to like go a lot of places yet. And that's okay. So I'm not saying you gotta like be like dead somebody and be like, oh, she's done. She hasn't been anywhere in her life. Like that's not necessarily the case. People's circumstances are different, and some people don't value traveling. Like I value traveling. So I've been to Greece. I've been to Italy. I've been to Spain. I've been to India. That's where I trained to get my yoga certification. I've been to London. I'm about to go back there in September and MC an event. So, and there's other places I want to go, like the Canary Islands, Mauritius, Africa, period. I've been to Brazil. There's other places in South America I want to go. So yeah, a real woman will know geography to answer your question. Blue Neptune, Joy Rochelle, dig your positive energy and peaceful spirit. Will drop by later. Awesome to see you, Blue Neptune. I'll be back here live tomorrow, so you can catch me then. I'm testing different time slots, so I don't know what time, but I'm sure you'll catch me when you can. And if not, I'll see you in the next video. I have a lot of content on here and a lot of new content coming out. So I hope that answers your questions, it Cannon, about how you get to know somebody organically without asking questions that sound like they are an interview. You know, if a woman has a pet, ask her, "Oh, how did they come into your life?" Like, women who have pets would love to talk to you about that, right? I have a dog. A lot of people ask me like how he came into my life, and I always say like, "Oh, I adopted him. He's a senior dog. I love adopting senior Yorkies. My last dog was a senior because a lot of people don't want seniors." Because they can come with a lot of health issues, et cetera, et cetera. Or they just old and people don't want to adopt them. And I feel like I get to give him such a great life until we decide to part ways or he leaves his body. So um things like that, you know? So ask questions like that, you know? Like I said, the best way to get to know anybody is to be interested versus being interesting. Because when they realize you're interested in them, they're going to naturally open up. When they know you don't have an agenda and you're just interested, anything is possible. And I'll give you one tip here that will make a woman so wet when you like want to get to know her and you're genuine about it. I'm going to say this, right? Because women build interest on emotion and fall in love with men through their heart, through emotion, right? So take that, and if it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, don't. So, no, I've never wrestled with my dog, but I rubbed his belly. Um I would love I would love to papa you. You're very attractive. Scott Smith, are you 73? Is that what you're saying? I don't know what that means. Anyway, basically what I'm saying is all that I talked about, I help men shift into. This is the work that I do. And so if you're interested in working with me on a deeper level, not just coming on here live, not just hearing my content, I have an invitation for you right now. It's called the Masculine Confidence Audit. And this is exactly what we go into in that. It's a laser focused coaching session with me that lasts about an hour where we unblock like and unlock your patterns. I make you aware of those, especially your relational patterns, the past patterns you had in relationships, because relational dynamics and your part in it it plays a lot and says a lot about you, right? With what has come up for you and how you relate to women, how you've related to women in the past. And if you are taking that past and making a story about it and bringing it into your present, and it's affecting you dating and being in relationship with other women, people are not in tune with that, and they can be so on automatic about the story they're telling themselves about what happened in the past, and they bring it into their present, and it can fuck everything up, excuse my language. And so we work on, how that's affecting you. We work on what's blocking you. We bring all of this up to the surface, and then in that same coaching session I help you shift fast so that you can course correct and do something differently. And this is not about fixing you. This is not about telling you you're not good enough. This is about empowering you and helping you self actualize to the man you want to become, and relating to women and just in general, so that you can make different choices to get different results, especially when it comes to women. But this can also be a big life transformation through doing this work with me and through saying yes to this audit. It's about auditing, right? And getting you crystal clear on where you are so that you know where you want to go. And then you leave that session with a plan, a strategy to work on yourself, to work on your mindset, and to step into some actions that you can do in real time with women that's going to help you get the results you want, right? And just one session can be life changing. So that is my offer to you now. It's set at a special price right now. The first 5 men who jump at it after I book them, the price is increasing and going up. And so that is going to be in the description when I put the replay up for this live, it's going to be the description right in the description. The link is going to be in the description right under the video so that you can buy it and then get it booked, and I'll email you to book that coaching session. So without further ado, I'm going to start to wind down because it's 11:40 p.m. my time. But I could be on here with you guys. I love talking to you. I love being in conversation. And most of all, I love being in service to you, because when one man is more effective, like in his dating, relationships, and life, it changes the trajectory and it shifts the energy of the rest of the men on the planet. I really do believe that. And it shifts the energy just in general. So thank you so much for chiming in the conversation, for asking questions, for commenting. If that's something you want, the link will be in the description below. And until the next time, till tomorrow, I'll see you in another live tomorrow, or I'll see you in the next video. Ciao. Adore you all. Anderson, you're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Ciao.